Today, we're going to be reacting to your hottest Boruto takes. There's a lot of hot takes on Twitter. You already know how this shit works. There's a lot of stuff that people say about Boruto. We have over 100 replies. I'm not going to be here all day. We're not going to read all of them, but we're going to read the most popular ones. And I'm going to give you guys my insight because the discussion about Boruto, it has changed ever since the time skip has started. When it comes to the overall series, a lot of people have different opinions about it because obviously it's a very controversial series. Ikimoto is the perfect man to draw Boruto. He draws it with realism like a movie, from the fluidity of the paneling to the poses and clothes. He gives us cool angles and perspectives when it's needed. And I can't imagine Boruto in any other art style, especially in physical form. I don't know about like a movie. I don't know what exactly that means, but I do think he is the right artist. Yes, he has his flaws. He has a very simple format and style that he follows, and me personally, as long as it's enjoyable to read, I'm all good for it. I enjoy reading the manga and its art style. I think it's very unique for what it's done. It's very simple, right? We don't really have double spread panels, a lot of basic backgrounds, but I do think it does the job. I do think the art style is fine as it is. I know a lot of people critique it a lot, but I think Ikimoto's done a fine job so far, especially in Two Blue Vortex, man. The art style has been great. Those Inojin panels are crazy. They were, man. Inojin being turned into a donut and Himawari transforming, I thought that was great paneling from Ikimoto, just showing the perspective shot, the zoomed out panel of it. That was really good, man. I know Ikimoto isn't the most perfect artist. He has a lot of flaws, but there has been some decent improvement when it comes to the character models and even the battles, man. Because there was one point in Boruto where Ikimoto would spam a lot of speed lines, aka action lines, and it would be jarring to read, i.e. the Delta fight, Delta versus Naruto, but he's kind of slowed down with that, and he's kind of found a good mix with it. Of course, he isn't the most consistent per se, but at least in the first 10 chapters Two Blue Vortex, there's been a consistent art flow, and I've been enjoying it at least, and it really doesn't hinder my reading. Could it be better? 1000%. Is it on the level of Naruto? Definitely not. Kishimoto is definitely one of one, but I think he's done a fine job. But that's just me though. Part 1 Boruto is arguably a better character, I presume, than 95% of OG Naruto characters. I would agree. I would agree. He is the main character after all. I think his development is very underrated, right? I think when it comes to part 1, the character that receives the most character change is Kawaki, but for Boruto's character, he has changed so much, and unfortunately a lot of people's perspective on Boruto's character is that, oh, he's still a brat, he's spoiled, things of that nature, when he's really changed as a character ever since that first arc. At least he followed the manga format from the Chunin exams, right? And unfortunately, no matter how much Boruto does progress as a character, people will still view Boruto as that like whiny, spoiled brat who cheated in the Chunin exams, even though he's far progressed that. I've really grown on Boruto's character ever since the end of part 1. I've been really enjoying his character, and I wouldn't even say that's a hot take. That's low-key a little bit factual. Boruto part 1 is a way better character than part 1 Naruto. Hey man, that's very contentious. Very contentious. I do think there's a debate for it. I still think, I'm not gonna lie, I still think part 1 Naruto is better, just by a little bit. I do think there's a nostalgia factor for it. I would admit, at least in my personal opinion, but I do think Boruto, his willingness to embrace being a shinobi when he first didn't want to, him connecting with other people, growing with everybody else, and then dealing with those consequences of losing everything. Code is / will be a menace. Him being a fraud is misdirection and will pay off eventually. He's gonna clap back hard. Someone said Delulu. I think he will. I think he will. The reason why Code is still in this series is because he's gonna be in the shadows. Of course, I do think Code has been a disappointment so far. People have been saying the reason why he's like that is because he's written that way on purpose, and fair enough, I guess, but so far, Code has been a disappointment in my opinion. He definitely has fraud allegations that he must answer to, because every time he does something, he always seems to fail again and again, but that seems to be just his character. I do think he will come back for sure. He will get his get back eventually, but he will have to do it in a way that no one expects it, because I'm gonna be real, I don't think he'll be able to do anything right now for him to overcome even something like the Ten Tails, like Jura and Hidari. I just think he's outmatched by even those characters, because if he can't beat Boruto, he's not gonna be able to stop those other villains, man. But I do think there's a chance because he's still alive. He escaped for a reason. Maybe the hottest take of all. The anime makes the series more enjoyable to me tenfold. It adds so much characterization and world building, whether it's directly tied to the main plot or not. I can confidently say I wouldn't enjoy this series as much as I do without the anime. I mean, I don't even think that's a hot take because I've seen people say this all the time. When it comes to the anime, they definitely do flesh out the story. When I look at the anime, I do think it does serve a purpose when it comes to the overall storyline. However, I do think sometimes they do drag it a lot with some of these arcs. Some of them, I'm gonna be real, they're not necessary per se because they won't even add to the manga, but they do provide additional content for some of these side characters because the anime, at least where it's presented, they say everything's canon. Me personally, some of it isn't necessary, but when you have arcs like the Kara activation arc, Mujina Bandit's arc, things of that nature, it does add to it. I think that's a popular opinion. I wouldn't even say it's a hot take. That's just a popular thing that a lot of people say, especially on Twitter. I see it in the comment section. You guys say that a lot. Akamaru doesn't have any screen time in Boruto, and it's such a disservice to the OG series by cutting out such a vital character to the story. Oh my god. Akamaru? Yeah, man. My guy's trolling. Kashin Koji is the one that taught Boruto flying Raijin, and Koji also uses it. Think back to the anime episode where he stole the scroll. I'm starting to think that's why. I'm pretty sure he just reverse summoned out of the flying Raijin. But I do think for sure, yes, Kashin Koji might have had a play in for how Boruto learned flying Raijin because Boruto doesn't use his karma. Right? He doesn't use his karma at all. We saw last chapter that when he uses his karma, he probably fears that Momoshiki could come out. That's why he was on the sideline last chapter. So him learning flying Raijin was definitely useful. Yeah, Kashin Koji might have had a play in it for sure. Because the fact that he's in his corner, he's trying to help Boruto out. I find Sarada's treatment in the manga to be incredibly poor. I feel like in part 1, yes. Because when it comes to a main character, the main characters were really just Boruto, Kawaki, Naruto, and Sasuke. I know she used Chidori in the Burrow fight, but outside of that, really, they didn't hint much to Sarada's development. We've seen her train with like Team 7, things of that nature, but that's where the anime came in, right? The earlier point somebody was talking about when Sarada learned Chidori, they expanded on her learning it because Sasuke taught her how to use the jutsu. You never saw that in the manga, right? In the manga, all of a sudden she just knows how to use Chidori, right? I do agree. Sarada's treatment in the manga was, at least in part 1, not the greatest. Yes, she unlocked the Mangekyo. Yes, she learned these abilities, but I feel like when it came to her character, they were missing out on a lot of it. The time skip, at least in Two Blue Vortex, it's done a way better job. The fact that she's already getting her first fight, there's already plot development that has to do with her and Hidari, for example. The ending of Next Generations was a bit rushed, especially for a monthly manga. That's hot. That's definitely a hot take because I disagree. I thought it was fine per se because everything that was built up to the end of part 1, I thought it was well thought out, right? The whole omnipotent shit, Kawaki getting his karma seal back, stealing Naruto away. It definitely was very quick for sure, but I thought it was built up perfectly for that big reveal where Boruto was forced to leave the village. I would say though, when it came to the stuff that happened between Next Generations and Two Blue Vortex, like such as Naruto dying, how did the village react to that? The other villages finding out that Naruto died. 5 Kage learning that Boruto is a so-called traitor and that he killed the Hokage, right? I wish we got information about that. If you're referring to that, for sure, 100%. I hate to say this, but the anime will fix it up. I hate relying on the anime. Boroshiki is on par or above Ishiki. Do you know what's crazy? There might be some evidence on that. Boroshiki being above or on par with Ishiki? Obviously, part 1, no. There's no chance of that. But when it comes to Momoshiki taking control over Boruto's body, he has access to his jutsus, right? And obviously this version of Boruto in base form, the way that he destroyed Code, the way that he can fight on his own compared to the other like 10 tails, I'm not gonna lie, this version of Boroshiki might be him. Can you imagine Momoshiki with the ability to use Rasengan Uzehiko, Flying Raijin, and of course the Karma as well, which is a physical amp, and amps all of the jutsus that Boruto does use, which Boruto hasn't done yet because he doesn't want to use Karma. I ain't gonna lie, currently, that might be facts. Ishiki is still the best villain with the most influence. Kawaki and Kono are his creations. Kurama's death and rebirth is his doing. Momo is a close second, all of Boruto's problems, while Kawaki is the most active, so he's the third. I still think Momoshiki is the best, because I just love his character. I love the way that he like stirs shit up in the pot. Like he instigates, he takes over Boruto's body, took out Sasuke's Rinnegan. Obviously Boruto lost everything and Momoshiki's still there. Boruto's obviously still scared of Momoshiki coming out, hence why he doesn't use the Karma. The power cliffing and scaling isn't bad. Naruto fans created the headcanon that you need big forms or M's to become powerful, when in reality, it's all about your base stats and chakra potential that you have. This is correct. I feel like this is a good take because yes, there is power cliffing. Yes, there is some things that are like, if you use like part 1 Sarada, the way she's able to blitz somebody like Boro, where all of the characters in Kara are said to be like Otsutsuki plus. If you're gonna use that logic, like Sarada could be, part 1 Sarada could box some of the Kage in Naruto Shippuden from like the War Arc, for example, right? This is just anime fans in general. We tend to over exaggerate some characters, and because of how scaling works, we tend to use their lore, prioritize that over some characters' feats. So for example, Madara, right? I think Madara is the most gassed up character in the Naruto verse. I think people kind of overrate Ten Tails Madara to the moon. To this day, Ten Tails Madara with like 3 Renegons could beat like adult Naruto and Sasuke, even though we know the truth of that. Same thing with like Jigen and Momoshiki. People think that like Madara could just solo them. People were calling Boruto a karma merchant, which Kawaki is, by the way. Kawaki is a karma merchant compared to Boruto. We see in the Timeskip Boruto train and learn new jutsus. He doesn't need the karma in order to fight essentially some of the strongest characters in the verse, such as Flying Raijin, such as Rasengan Uzehiko, where he's able to neutralize these characters, right? Part 1 of Boruto is masterfully written in such a way that if you break down the sequence of events, either Boruto or Kawaki can be viewed as the hero. I think Boruto Part 1 is great for sure. I'm not going to call it 10 out of 10. I do think there are some flaws. I'm not going to go into it, but Boruto or Kawaki can be viewed as a hero. Exactly. Because Boruto did a lot of things to save the village, and Kawaki, of course, he is kind of the villain of the series because he turned the entire story around onto Boruto's head. But the way that he's trying to protect Naruto from Momoshiki, I understand why he did it. As much as some dislike leakers, they really did bring the popularity up to a good amount, especially the Timeskip so far. I mean, true, the leaks generate hype. Chat, you already know me. I don't look at leaks. I don't read leaks. I read the chapters spoiler free, but leaks definitely do generate hype. They bring people to talk about it. Of course, I'm not the biggest fan of spoilers and leaks that come out early because I do think it does impact like overall sales, but it doesn't do that much, right? People are still going to be tuning in regardless. People are still going to be looking at the official releases because they do generate popularity, right? For example, Naruto unlocking Baryon mode. This is like my only spoiler video I ever made. This was years ago when Naruto unlocked Baryon mode. The hype behind that before the chapter released was absolutely insane. Same thing when Kurama died. I'm pretty sure when the time skip happened, when Boruto lost everything for the omnipotence, it brings people to talk about the series for sure, 1000%. Boruto needs a villain like Pain, or one of the Shinju needs to drop a world-class speech. One thing Naruto villains are known for is their generational speeches. We need those back in Boruto, and I agree. We need those. I think Kawaki, like, he showed a little bit of that when he was talking to Naruto, how he has developed this hatred for the Otsutskis and how he's going to eliminate all of them, starting with Boruto. Right, I thought we got a little bit of that. I like the way Jigen and Momoshiki trash talk, but we need something like this, and I do think Jiraiya could show that for sure because he's learning about the world, he's getting information. We see him reading books on certain characters, things of that nature. We need one of these, and I think Jiraiya can show this for sure. This is a hot take. Boruto's character development so far already surpasses Naruto's character development by the end of Shippuden. That's a hot take, bro. I disagree. I just disagree with this one. I don't think, like, some of the stuff that Naruto was doing at the end of Shippuden, the middle of the series as well, like, I know a lot of people don't like the Talk no Jutsu and Obito, but him reaching out to him, you know, even convincing Sasuke to do what he did, him bringing all of the village together, him embracing Kurama, I feel like Boruto has yet to eclipse that yet. I do think his character is contentious when it comes to his development, with like part 1 Naruto, but we have yet to see Boruto be on that level for Shippuden, like the Talk no Jutsus. I know a lot of people like to make fun of it, but it does go hand in hand with this character, and I know Boruto is capable of doing it, but we haven't seen it just yet. But I do think he has the potential. Unfortunately, it will never be seen as such because people are clingy to Naruto, and that nostalgia factor does kick in, right? A new 4-man Otsutsuki lineup would have been more interesting than the Shinju. Now, me personally, I prefer these Shinju because the one thing that's interesting about these characters is that they have their own goals. It isn't just to get more powerful per se. Of course, they want to devour these characters, but they just don't want to chase after a chakra fruit, right? Their goal is to learn more about the world, starting with Jiraiya, and all of these characters have their own goal that they want to attain. Of course, ultimately, it is to get more power, but these characters have their own will. they're not genetically programmed to just devour something. Since they have self-awareness, I do think it is more interesting, in my opinion, than just 4 Otsutskis. I do understand though, I do understand where this person is coming from, but in my opinion, with all the Otsutsuki like Ishiki, Momoshiki, Urashiki, Kinshiki, these characters have the same end goal, and that is to harvest a chakra fruit. Whereas these Shinju, they want to learn more about the world. They're reading books, they're setting their own goals per se, and they're going to evolve from that, right? And I think that makes them a little bit more different. And I think it would have been more repetitive if they just introduced just more Otsutsuki. I feel like the time skip is rushing through the story. I did not expect Boruto to fight Code within the first chapter, and the 10 Tails clones to attack Konoha. I feel like it's going a little fast. I don't think this is a hot take, but world building is almost non-existent. I'm not here to complain about it. I'm happy we're getting Boruto and Code and the 10 Tails, and we're jumping right into the action. Would it be preferable to slow it down a little bit? Sure, but I think when it comes to the build-up of the story, when it comes to showing off everything, I think it's fine as is. And when it comes to Kishimoto, ever since he took over the Boruto manga, he has slower points in the story. Right now, I don't think it's worth slowing things down because Code already attacked the village, and that already changed the dynamic of everything. Boruto's coming in and out of Konoha, the 10 Tails have already come. I think it's fine as it is right now. Kawaki doesn't care about Himawari and is only putting on a mask to not look suspicious. Obviously, this is about manga Kawaki and not his anime version. I mean, yes, in the anime, Kawaki has shown care for her. Yeah, he's put his body on the line for her. And even in the manga when they were fighting each other. But I do think Kawaki is prioritizing his goal of killing Boruto and all of the Otsutsuki is going to get in the way of like his family members, like Himawari, for example. Like, yes, right now, like, he did leave the village in order to save Himawari, so I do think he does care about her, but I do think when it comes to his goal, he is willing to throw anybody into the fire in order to accomplish it. So I think when it's all said and done, not gonna lie, I do think Kawaki will throw Himawari to the side, right? And since he does know that he has flipped the entire story onto everybody else to get to Boruto, I do think he's gonna get reckless. He is going to get reckless. He's already shown it. Like, he's tried fighting these characters and he's been getting washed. Boruto already destroyed him. I do think it will get to that point. But I do think he does care about her a little bit because that is his family. But when it comes to his goals right now, I do think he is going to prioritize that over everything else. Filler drastically altered the perception of Boruto. If it wasn't so jam-packed with non-canon, then I think Boruto would have a better rep. I think so too, man. The reputation of Boruto, I'm gonna say it, bro. I don't think Boruto will ever save face when it comes to the overall perception of its series. I think because of its slow start with the anime, which granted I don't think it was that slow, because of the filler, the quote-unquote filler, and not jumping right into the action, it really did hurt its reputation. And I don't think that perception will change anytime soon because there's so much anime filler that has to extend into the manga. And since the manga is on a monthly release, and because of that, I don't think it will change. Even, like, we're in the time skip right now, and people are still think Boruto's a spoiled brat. They still hate him for cheating in the Chunin exams, even though we are far long past that arc. Boruto has clearly developed way past that shit, and unfortunately, because of that, and how the filler dragged out the, Boruto's a brat, oh, I hate my dad, woo, woo. Because of that, people still view Boruto of that, even though he's not like that anymore. Like, literally past that arc, he's not that, right? He has clearly developed. People still hold him to that, tuning exam scene, and that sucks, for his character and the series. Boruto's time skip was done better than Naruto's time skip. Now, with this one, sure. I think when it comes to the character of Boruto and Naruto, it was done differently. Obviously, Naruto heading into the time skip was you have to refine your techniques as a shinobi. When he came back, he wasn't the strongest. I would even argue he'd probably be the weakest compared to Sakura and Sasuke. Obviously, barring Nine Tails, the Nine Tails coming out. But in base Naruto, he had a bigger Rasengan. He was a little bit smarter with him as a shinobi when it comes to his battle tactics. But compared to Boruto, I ain't gonna lie, Boruto he was swagged out, man. He's swagged out right now. He's looking so much better than Naruto, right? Naruto, it took him a little bit. He had to realize that he's not on Sasuke's level. He had to get his ass whooped by him. He had to get into training, get that stage mode in order to get to that level. But with Boruto was forced to take on a harder position compared to Naruto. Naruto came back to the village. He still had Jiraiya. He still had his friends. Boruto had nothing, man. So I think that kind of changed him a little bit. Besides the time skip, to me, the most incredible thing they have done in Boruto so far is that they have brought up the science into shinobi worlds and managed to broaden it on a deeper level. They've also continued the exploration of the Sasuke clan since the end of Shippuden. I actually love the technology in it. I know a lot of people say that's not ninja-like, but when it comes to some of these characters, they have understood that they cannot be on the level of Naruto and Sasuke power-wise. Because at the end of the day, in order to make progress in this series, you must have the power level of, like, you have to be one of the stronger characters in this series or have connections to those characters, like an Amato, who helped modify Kara. That's why somebody like Delta can fight with Naruto. That's why Ao in the anime explained. Like, Ao in the anime, he explained that because, like, you can't reach the power levels of Naruto and Sasuke inherently, you have to use this technology in order to get there. Right, that's why the Kara organization was created in the first place, to fight Naruto and Sasuke. Code was stated to be like on the level of Naruto and Sasuke and was created to take him down in order to protect somebody like Jigen, right? So I like the technology, and what I like is that they have shown that you can't just rely on it in order to just get your goals, because even with Ao and Boro and Delta, there are limitations to this technology. Even though you can create cybernetics to absorb jutsu and use your own jutsu at will, such as regeneration, there's always a limit to it, such as with Boro, for example, right? Once you took out the core, he regenerated so much that he lost his mind. Delta couldn't absorb all of Naruto's chakra, so her inner self exploded within. Her body couldn't take it anymore, right? Jigen, despite being amped up on Ten Tails chakra, despite having all these cybernetics, his body had so much power that his body eventually broke down because of it, right? So even then, like, even Kawaki, we saw his body exhaust himself when he had his first fight with Garo. Even though there was technology introduced, there were far limitations that were implemented that kind of slowed down these characters, because even though they were brought up to a power level that Naruto and Sasuke and the Otsutsuki could fight on, there are clear limitations, right? There should have been more Karma Seal users outside of Boruto, Kawaki, and Code. Felt like that was a missed opportunity. I like the uniqueness that Boruto and Kawaki and Code had with their karmas. I like that when it came to, like, their ability to use it, Boruto was a rookie at it, Kawaki was already experienced with it, same thing with Code, even though he had a bootleg one. I thought it was fine with just having 3 users. I mean, Jigen as well. It avoids emotional scenes like the plague. I mean, this is just not true. Boruto doesn't. This is just flat out wrong. Yeah, when it comes to even the manga, bro, you see like Sarada break down, her unlocking her Mangekyo Sharingan when she found out that Naruto was quote unquote dead. Even with the, like, in the anime when Kurama died, Naruto broke down. It's a very emotional scene. Boruto thought Naruto died after he was Baryon mode. There's a lot of emotional scenes in the series. Even in the last chapter, Himawari breaking and going out in a rage, unlocking the Nine Tails chakra, right? Like, seeing Inojin die and Inojin become desperate in order to save Himawari, even in the past few chapters of Two Blue Vortex. So yeah, I disagree with this one, man. Boruto verse is still an Itachi victim. That's facts. Itachi solos, we all know this. I'm just joking. Ooh, Kodachi was the best. I think he's saying that Kodachi was a better writer. Now, I'm not gonna lie. I think Kodachi has done a great job when he was the author. I thought he did an incredible job setting up the karma, setting up the, like, Otsutsuki lore. Obviously, it was done through Kishimoto's approval, so at the end of the day, Kishimoto was the one that, like, gave the final yes because he was still overseeing the manga. But I thought Kodachi did an incredible job with writing characters like Jigen and Kawaki. Like, Kawaki was his magnum opus, bro. Kawaki was his introduction, his backstory, his dynamic with Boruto and Naruto. That was probably the best part of the series. But I don't think he was the best author, because I thought what Kishimoto did by taking the elements that Kodachi introduced, such as the karma, the dynamic between Kawaki and Boruto, Boruto's dilemma with Momoshiki, I thought Kishimoto took those elements and flipped it upside down with the omnipotence. Now, this could have been Kodachi's idea, but the way Kishimoto has continued to utilize those elements, I thought it was a lot better than what Kodachi has done. Kodachi laid the foundation, but Kishimoto ran with it, if you know what I'm trying to say. Not only that, Kodachi was going at 100 miles per hour by having fight after fight after fight in each and every chapter. I thought Kishimoto slowed down the pace a little bit by having more informational chapters, providing more dialogue, albeit the fandom was very impatient, saying that, oh my god, Kishimoto doesn't know what he was doing. The overreactions at the time was kind of crazy, but I thought Kishimoto cooked enough for what we were seeing now in the time skip. These villains have no depth to them at all, and I don't care to use the whole "they are new" excuse when code exists and have gotten zero actual good writing other than concepts surrounding strength. Well, I disagree on that because I think characters like Ishiki and Momoshiki, they have shown you depth, such as the use of the karma, right? Because at the end of the day, these are power-hungry characters, so of course, they are going to use concepts surrounding strength, but when it comes to the emotional side of things, right, we've seen Jigen break Kawaki. Yeah, like, bro, we've seen, like, when Jigen first came to the Leaf Village to bring back Kawaki, teleported using Kawaki's karma, Kawaki was so afraid. He was scared for his life. He was willing to go with Jigen in order to make sure that Naruto wasn't there, as well as with the concepts of karma. Ishiki was consistently telling Kawaki that you need the karma. The karma makes you whole, where eventually Kawaki comes to an understanding that he needs that in order to protect himself and Naruto, right? Not only that, it gives him a purpose, right? The karma gives everybody a purpose. And same thing with Code. I can't believe I'm defending Code here, but Code has always been second fiddle to everybody. Second fiddle to Kawaki. He got the bootleg karma instead of the main one. Kawaki was treated as the main vessel, and even in the story, as he's getting his ass whooped, just the thing about strength is just how he's viewed as a character. And even with Momoshiki, the way that he's able to control Boruto, the way that he's able to essentially ruin his life, giving Boruto that ticking time bomb, right? Where Boruto is willing to sacrifice himself. That's depth, right? I think a lot of people confuse that with just power, concepts of karma, the way he was taking over Boruto, the way that he would haunt him. And even though Boruto would try to stay strong with it, eventually Boruto had to give up his body, and Boruto was afraid that because of Momoshiki coming out, he feared what exactly what happened. We still see it in the latest chapter. That's why Boruto left. Even when it comes to Ishiki's ideology of being a ninja, he always called him fodder, he called him useless and weak. And the funny thing is, that's exactly how he died. He died to a ninja. Died to Kawaki using ninjutsu, aka Shadow Clone Jutsu. That's how he got killed, right? So that's depth as well. I'm not going to go too much into it, but there's a lot of small things that are mentioned when it comes to these characters that I think a lot of people miss, unfortunately, when it comes to these villains. This is a shit take, in my opinion. People say this a lot, that they have no depth, but I think there's a lot of things that do show that they're in depth. Sarada is a glorified and overhyped side character that fans only gas up because they feel obligated to do so. She adds nothing new or refreshing to the series, just the same old recycled storyline and techniques. While I do think she has some repeated techniques, like the Chidori, like the Sharingan, of course, like every Uchiha user. I think when it comes to her role in the story, the concept of love, the way she's unlocked the Sharingan, it's not the same compared to any new Uchiha. That's what makes it refreshing about her character. Can it be explained more? 1000%. But when it comes to these Sarada guided novel, right, where she meets Sasuke for the first time in years, the way she unlocked her Sharingan, the way she unlocked her Mangekyo Sharingan is completely different compared to any Uchiha before, indicating that the cycle of hatred and the curse that the Uchihas had when it came to unlocking the Mangekyo Sharingan is done, right? That's what Sasuke and Naruto changed at the end of the war arc. That's what kind of conceptually changed Sarada when it comes to her as a character. She broke the Uchiha curse of how you unlock your Sharingan. So I don't think that's a recycled storyline. I do think her techniques are for sure, the same thing with Sasuke and Itachi, like how Sasuke learned the Chidori, right? I hope she has new techniques. I do agree with that, but when it comes to the storyline of Sarada, I disagree for sure. She adds nothing new. Nah. Her leadership as Team 7's captain, she's one of the main reasons why they beat Boro, right? Obviously, she didn't deliver the killing blow, but she was able to find the core, use Chidori, and without her, a lot of characters would be dead. I do think she should be used more, and I do think she will be, as we saw in the latest chapter. She's gonna fight Hidari. Fans who think Naruto and Sasuke were nerfed in Boruto are cancer to the fandom and need to stop living in the past. Yeah, I'm not a power scaler, but if you don't think Naruto and Sasuke at their peak when they had the Nine Tails and the Rinnegan are stronger than the war arc selves, I don't know what to tell you, bro. Just because they don't have these crazy big explosions when Naruto shoots 1,000 Bijou bombs, that doesn't make them weaker. You know what I'm saying? That doesn't make them any weaker. They scaled down the destruction. They're fighting characters that realistically would solo all of Shippuden. Like Jigen, Ishiki, right? Fuse Momo is stronger than basically every villain we've ever seen, including Kaguya. I don't care. Fuse Momo is stronger than Kaguya, and I stand on that. A lot of people really gas up. Naruto and Sasuke have shown speed feats that they are way faster, way physically stronger compared to their past self. Of course, they are nerfed now for story implications because Naruto lost Kurama, Sasuke lost the Rinnegan. But it sucks seeing that, like, oh, Sasuke doesn't use Chibaku Tensei, therefore he's nerfed. Like, no. Think with your head for once, you dumbasses. I swear, bro. Boruto has the biggest dick riding community. It's not even the fault of Naruto fans that want to relive the glory days. I mean, there's stands in every community. I agree with you right here. I'm not gonna say the biggest, but they're definitely one of the biggest glazers. But that's what fans do. Every anime community is gonna hype up their own series. That's just a normal thing to do. So I'm not gonna say the biggest, but one of the biggest for sure. But that's just a normal thing. Kawaki and Code are not frauds. It's just Boruto fanboys who believe that. Yes. You know, when you lose a fight, now you're a fraud. I would call Code a fraud because everything that he does, he just utterly fails at. That's what a fraud is. Of course, Kawaki, he has been kind of been getting pushed around, shoved to the side. But Ikimoto needs to add more shading and detail. Kishi had many panels where there was insane close-ups and intense shadings, more grayscaling and light along with the other things. Ikimoto knows how to cook. I feel like he's not putting his whole Ikimoto, I can't even say that, bro, into it sometimes. I do agree. I think he should add some more shading. Of course, that is unique to Kishimoto. I think Ikimoto has shown that in the past with like Jiken beating Kawaki for the first time. Like, he's shown panels of that before. I would like to see more of that though. Ikimoto has a very basic formula that he does follow. However, I do think this is a fair critique. I would like to see more detail like this, 1000%. I would love to see more of this in Boruto because this is what made Naruto manga unique. I feel like this is the next step of progression for Ikimoto. He has to get here because this is his first major manga that he's working on, and Kishimoto put his trust into Ikimoto to draw this series. So for the time skip to get even better, I think he's been doing a phenomenal job so far, but he can get a lot better for sure. Boruto, aka Momoshiki, is the one who destroys the village in the beginning scene in Kawaki. That's interesting to note that because we know that Boruto can't use his karma, and we see that Boruto activates his karma while he's consciousness, meaning that he does overcome it. I do think that eventually he will find a way to eradicate Momoshiki out of his body, because if Boruto can use his karma in the future, it means that he doesn't fear Momoshiki anymore, meaning that he either conquered him or Momoshiki's soul has left his body. I do think there could be a way where Boruto loses that. The day Momoshiki takes control over this version of Boruto, it's wraps, because I don't think anybody in the village, barring Kawaki and maybe Damon, could stop this version of Momoshiki. The story went downhill after Code got his limiters removed, in my opinion. Before that, it was fire again, in my opinion. Everybody has their own opinion, of course. Yeah, I disagree. I thought the omnipotence was the peak of this series. I still think it's the best moment of this series. Yes, Code getting his limiters removed and then getting destroyed a chapter later was disappointing. However, I still think that the peak of this series was omnipotence. Boruto is better than part 1. So the overall story, I've said this many times and debated it many times. Most people are just biased. Ada and Sarada are the best, or some of the best female characters that Kishi has done. Boruto got good power scaling when it's done by somebody who understands how to scale and the Naruto verse. Ishiki got the most aura and best written new gen villain. Would be the top 4 in Naruto villains. That's a hot take. That's it right now. Boruto being better than part 1, all of part 1. I think part 1 was so consistently great though. If you want to talk about the anime, that's a hell no. I think the anime's filler, with the amount of dragged out episodes, obviously we've talked about it before, it does add more to the plot. It's a little bit too inconsistent to be better than part 1. Obviously referring to the manga, I think there is a debate for it, but I just think people are way too biased, as you mentioned, Troy. They have their own preferences, and I think Naruto part 1, there's definitely a nostalgia factor to it. I think there are some parts that in Boruto that definitely do contend with Naruto part 1 for sure, such as like the Momoshiki fight, the omnipotence event, even like the Momoshiki reveal. Those are some very hype moments, and even some of the battles in the anime, such as Kawaki vs Garo, peak. Those are some peak. It gives me Naruto part 1 vibes for sure. Ada and Sarada are some of the best female characters. I'm not gonna lie, like when it comes to Kishimoto writing female characters, the bar is so low. I think the bar when it comes to best female characters are incredibly low, that I definitely do think that Ada and Sarada, they got a chance. I already think they're in the top 5 and maybe even top 3. I still think Tsunade is the best written character, and that's because she already has lore established for her with her being part of the Sani. And I don't even think that's even that hard to surpass for when it comes to characters like Ada and Sarada. I think Sarada is already on her way. Same goes for Ada. Boruto's good power scaling was done by somebody who understands how to scale. I think the scaling is fine. Of course, there is definitely power cliffing involved, and I know a lot of people don't like that. I'm not a power scaler. I don't do the power scaling because I think it's so toxic, and as mentioned before, people are so biased to like certain characters like Madara, for example, that they don't want to admit that even like Borushiki would destroy Madara, right? Ishiki got the most aura and best written new gen villain. I think Ishiki has become underrated. I don't think he's talked about as the best villain. I do think his dominance in the story, the way that he's able to put fear into a character like Kawaki, is not talked about that much. Everyone talks about his power and his abilities, but the way that he was able to control Kara, the way that he's able to psychologically destroy Kawaki, that's not discussed as much. And I think that really puts into perspective just how crazy Kawaki is, because Ishiki drove him there, which is why you're seeing how Kawaki acts today. Let me know what you think about this video in the comment section below. So if you like this video, hit that like button, subscribe, hit the bell as well, and have a good day. Peace.